I think I got my mechanical abilities from my father. Yeah. And the ironic part is his dad was a welder.
Yeah.
His dad had an awesome tool set and knew what to do, welded things together.
Right. Yeah.
And my dad, not so much. Yeah. If there was something that needed fixed around the house, I think John...
The only tool your dad had was his son.
Right.
He had to whip him into shape.
Exactly. I was the main tool, the dullest tool.
All right, here we are, boys. Father's Flanagan, Father's Sarducci.
Raymond.
Ramon.
How's the go going?
Very well.
Here we are again.
Yeah.
Back at it in the original studio.
Back at it. Boy, that was kind of fun hearing Jan and her talking to us. Man, that was great.
Yeah.
Hey, if you're just listening to us for the first time after listening to Jan, welcome. This is a deep dive podcast. You're here with Brad.
This is Brad. Yeah, I'm Brad.
John.
Yeah, Brad's the baritone.
I'm Tab Batterson.
Tab Batterson.
That's right.
And sorry to disappoint anyone who is tuning in after having listened to the Jan, because I think that's like maybe untoppable.
Right.
Such a great episode. She was such a great guest. And now it's just us three knuckleheads back at doing what we do.
So if you are new to the show, Brad, what shows would you recommend somebody listen to?
Favorites of mine. I mean, we've done, what is it now? 35?
This is 36.
This is 36. Episode 36. And they all have different flavors, but my personal favorites have been with guests. Mm-hmm. And so my top 4 would be the Jan episode, which we just had, which many people probably heard. Kevin B.F. Burt. I mean, Kevin Burt, local musician, did 3 songs, one original to the pod.
Yeah,
This is amazing.
Yeah, just
David Zolo, also local musician, friend of mine for a long time. Legendary guy with a really cool backstory. Loved his pod. And then we had a couple really solid ones with Hap Peterson telling stories about the 85 Hawks and bringing in guests from his team. And those are some of my favorites. I love the Albert Haskell. I mean, we've had so many great guests. So
yeah.
John, who would you recommend? What shows would you recommend if somebody's new to the show?
All the guest ones I think have been great. You did mention Doug Alberhaski, Iowa City History. That was great. Craig Cermak did childhood famous cars of 70s and 80s, and we are going to have him again, spoiler alert, soon because we had so many requests for additional content. But outside of the guest shows, I like, I think, episode 2 when we did beer advertising. We got a lot of engagement on that. And then some of the ones where we've kind of put ourselves through the ringer, pickled meats.
Yeah.
We tortured ourselves with some shots.
Yeah.
So I think some of those were entertaining to record. And some people thought they were entertaining to listen to us punish ourselves.
Yeah. Death by pickled meat. Those numbers are up. Those are, I don't know where.
How could they not be?
I don't know who was, what vortex we got pulled into, but somebody out there, somebody loves death.
And Brad and I worked on that jar of pickled eggs for probably 3 or 4 months. And, and Ray would not touch them, but they were fine. They kept fine.
They got better with time, I thought.
They did. Yeah.
They were just coming into their own.
They sat in the sun at some tailgates. Yeah. They sat in the fridge in the rain. They were good.
It was like a fish tank. It started to get kind of that film on it and darkened up.
John, what did you end up doing? Did you dump them into the reflective pond out in Washington, D.C.? Is that what's
right? Yeah, exactly. They were the right color.
Right. All right, boys. Well, since we are last together, I think you guys did a little bike ride, and we're 30 days out today from Ragbri.
Is that what it is?
30 days.
Ooh, all right, let's go.
Yeah, I think we'll probably have something
about that
Ragbri related between now and then too.
For sure.
So, tell me about your bike ride this weekend.
Yeah, we logged some heavy miles this weekend. We, Brad and I, if you listen to the show, you know we tend to always do a Saturday morning, early morning spin around Iowa City with a breakfast stop. We had a group ride that celebrated a birthday this last weekend. So Brad and I did our huge in the morning and then shuttled up to Solon and met a larger group and rode up to Cedar Rapids and stopped at some dive bars along the way up there, made it to Lilbo. Had a nice conversation with Jeff and some of his famous little beers and had a great time.
Got to get there.
Lilbo's a great dive bar.
Yeah.
Man, such a great dive bar.
It is. And we got some positive feedback from him about maybe being on the pod.
Yeah, he was receptive.
We had heard that he was going to be anti-anything multimedia, but he seemed somewhat receptive. Yeah, so maybe we'll be able to sit down with Jeff.
All right, if he would be open to that, I'd be open to that. But if he's not open to it, I don't want any part of it.
Well, that might be better. If
I don't want to force anything.
Yeah, right.
He definitely seemed warm to it. I think it'd be a great show.
Yeah, it'd be fantastic. The history of that place, the history of his family in Czech Village in that area is really amazing. So it'd be fun to sit down with him.
For our long-term P1 listeners, Little Bo is the place that John told the poinsettia story from. So that's where that bar is.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I was just going to say, chatting with a friend, talking about the Dave Zolo episode. Dave has a song on one of his, trying to remember the name of the album it's off, but it's called Parnell. Mm-hmm. And I shared with you that a friend of mine said, if you haven't been there, and I haven't, have you guys been to Parnell, to the bar there? Apparently there is an epic dive in Parnell, which I think we need to prioritize getting to.
I don't know if you've taken the time to look yet, but Ragbri goes through Kimballton. It goes through Elkhorn.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Which is, I guess, only 3 miles away from Kimballton.
Off route.
We're going to Luggers.
Yeah, that's a mandatory off route.
I knew, the only thing that I knew for sure about Ragbri was it goes through Dunlap, Iowa.
Right.
So I'm going to try and see if I can get like a Dunlap sanitation,
right,
coveralls or Dunlap City Council signage or something. But yeah, okay, Kimballton. We got to go to Luggers and we got to pay a visit to that legendary spot that Jan talked so much about.
I like it.
I'm in.
All right, with last weekend behind us, we're going to take a look at this weekend coming up. This coming weekend's Father's Day.
It is indeed.
And we all three are fathers, so this week's show, we're going to talk about Father's Day and how we celebrate. But to look back on Father's Day is actually pretty recent. It was observed since in 1972. That in comparison with the first Mother's Day, which was in 1908, when Anna Jarvis petitioned to have a day created in which mothers, who usually carried the burden of the family workload, were recognized and for their thankless work. So it's just been pretty recently that fathers have been acknowledged. It's almost 60 years after Mother's Day was established. So Father's Day is this weekend. Do you guys have any plans?
Yeah, nothing too big, but the girls and I, well, it's supposed to, I'm not a weather, as we've established, I'm not a weather prognosticator, but I'm told by my wife, who is, I suggested a bike ride, like breakfast and a bike ride on Sunday, which we did last year, I think.
Yep.
And the girls were all into it, but it sounds like it could rain. So we'll see. We might do a breakfast and bike ride. If it's too rainy, we'll just do the breakfast and then maybe a little barbecue. Then I'm going to go down and see my dad in Washington.
Yeah.
I'm going to take him some Wig and Pen. He's a Flying Tomato fan.
Yeah.
So I'm going to deliver.
It's got good taste.
A Flying Tomato pie
Expensive
and hang
taste.
out with Doug. There you
Fantastic.
go. Yeah.
My dad's coming up, and we're going to go to baseball tomorrow night. And then Saturday, I think we're going to go catch a Colonel's game, and then
they're
going to go home.
Nice.
So
very sporting.
Baseball weekend.
both of my boys will be in town on Sunday, and I'm sure they have really great plans for me.
Absolutely. Hot dog in the stands with your dad.
Yeah.
That's standard, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
I don't know if I went to my first baseball game with him, but I will tell you the funnest thing that I ever did with my dad, my early memories of sports related, is he took me to the Harlem Globetrotters.
Oh, yeah.
Over it.
Yeah.
Is at Evans Junior High School in Ottumwa, Iowa.
Oh, okay.
Fantastic.
And like he got me real close to the floor. He got me where they came out, you know.
Yeah.
And I've always done that with my kids. I've always put my kids in the best position to meet Ian Happ, you know, to get Ian Happ's autograph. So that's one lesson that my dad taught me was, you know, like, if you're going to go to this thing, if you're going to invest the time in it, make sure it's special for your kids. So
Nice.
Very cool. Talking about like sporting events, and that was what we did. We didn't really take, you know, big trips or vacations in the summertime. Our thing was go to a major league market, right? So we go to Chicago and see the Cubs, or we go to Kansas City or whatever it is. And to your point, get there early, probably sit in the cheap seats, and then try to move down if you can.
Right.
But we were all about getting there for batting practice.
Oh yeah.
So we'd position our, you know, we'd get there, the stadium would open, right, and we'd be right there,
right,
and get going in the stands, and three Dunlap boys would run around with their gloves trying to catch every home run that gets hit. And so that was our thing. And then we stayed. We were there when they opened it. We did BP, and then after the game, if we had a ball or we had memorabilia, we would wait until the game finished. We'd figure out where the team came out, and we'd stand there and try and get autographs. So like we milked that, right? Like we were there for I don't know how many hours for a baseball game,
right?
You know, with batting practice, and then when they have it, they're turning the lights off, and we're still in the So yeah, good times. And my dad was all about like the cheap seats, but then see if you can upgrade and move down to the third base line or behind home plate or something.
John, did you guys have vacation as a family growing up?
You know, very much the same way. We would road trip around and go to baseball games. St. Louis, Milwaukee. So that was a big part of it. And then, but my first sporting events with my dad, we lived in Dallas, and the Texas Rangers baseball park back in the day used to be called the Frying Pan because there was no shade. You did not go early for batting practice. In fact, they famously played almost every home game at night because they had to. And so you would show up after the sun was setting because it was so hot. But distinctly remember, and we sat in the cheap seats. Me and the kids would go to the top of the bleachers and watch the roller coasters at Six Flags Over Texas. Probably drove our parents nuts that we weren't paying as close attention as we should to the game. But I will say then also we were obviously huge football fans. Yeah. And living in Dallas, we had a family friend who was plugged into the high school football scene there and had access to Dallas Cowboys practices. So we would get to go watch the Cowboys back in the day when they practiced like at a grass field. Yeah. It was kind of out in the open, but we would get to go watch the Cowboys practice, which was always a huge deal. And that's where we would get autographs. And all that stuff. So yeah, those are fun memories.
Same deal on the Chicago Bears. They used to practice in what college was it? It was just over in Wisconsin,
like Platteville or something. Yeah.
We'd drive up to Platteville.
Oh sure.
And we'd try to get
training camp.
Walter Payton's autograph and Willie Gault, and we'd stand around. And they do it like you had pretty good access to them. But that was a cheap way to get up close and personal.
Oh, for sure.
That and the Amana VIP when the Amana VIP was going.
Once we moved to Iowa and did that was now. Our parents they would just drop us off at the VIP, and we'd spend all day running around the course, probably causing mayhem.
Explain the VIP, just in case people don't remember the Amana VIP in Iowa City.
Well, I mean, it's a world-class golf tournament. I mean, you'd bring everybody a who's who, Pro-Am, And so for 6 days, you would have Chi Rodriguez. Yeah. I mean, you would have
Ben Banks, Willie Mays.
Yeah, you'd have all these baseball legends. The cast of Hee Haw,
right? Country music star,
right? Klinger from MASH. It was like this potpourri of kind of B+ list celebrities.
I wonder why Klinger wants Vicks Vapor Rub in the middle of August.
Gerald Ford. There was always a Secret Service because Gerald Ford would play.
Right?
And it would start like the night or 2 nights before at Dwayne Banks Field with a softball game.
Yeah.
And they'd bring in that softball team, the King and his court, and they would play the celebrities.
Yes.
And then the VIP would go for a couple, 2-3 days at Finkbine, and it was really something else. It was quite the event. And good autograph seeking for kids our age back then.
Yeah. Good times.
So I think the responsibilities of dads, like on vacation, they're kind of interesting. That whole dynamic has shifted. I will tell you, when I grew up, both my grandpa and my dad were world-class trunk packers.
Okay.
I mean, it was Tetris all the way. My dad could fit 2 cars worth of stuff into one trunk. Man, he was amazing. Now that's kind of my wife. That's her gig, man. And she's good at it, and you learn. Yeah, you know what the hill to die on, and that's not the one for me.
I thought you were going to, because I do remember vacations where like this combination of you were doing fun things and you were getting out and you were like going to McDonald's, like, getting fast food and stuff and things that we weren't, didn't have locally. So there was that adventure, but the drive could get really harrowing, right? Because you got 3 boys in the back and we're arguing with each other and we're doing this and that, and dad's trying to drive in like city traffic.
Right.
And this is
definitely
navigating your way and getting on and off on ramps in Chicago or Kansas City or wherever you might be would be the time. Sometimes I would see both my parents get super chippy with one another.
Right. Yeah.
Because someone's trying to read the map but not giving the feedback fast enough.
Just so everybody here understands, this is coming from a Gen X perspective. We didn't have turn by turn GPS. Your parents would sit down, probably your dad. And he would have like 4 maps. He'd have to go to AAA and say, like, I need the Illinois map, I need the Indiana map, I need the Kentucky map, I need the Tennessee map. And then he would basically do all of the work that GPS does now. Like 15 miles, look for.
And in the event of construction or something unforeseen, like there was no
there was no plan B.
I will say though, I thought where you were going to was like super navigator and like would never ask for directions. My dad did not subscribe to I think there were macho dads who were like, a true man would never stop and ask. My dad, the minute we're lost, he'd pull over. He'd have no problem walking up. And I'm the same. I've adopted. That's one lesson. Like don't be ridiculously macho. Just like figure out where you're going and get there.
My dad would not, and my dad he would set everything down and on a piece of paper, and then once my mom screwed up, things would get chippy. If she would miss it, my dad's nickname for her was Sacagawea, the person who navigated Lewis and Clark West. That's what he called her.
Well, I will tell one navigation story about my dad. So I said we lived in Dallas when we were younger. We moved to Iowa, and then after several years, we went back down to visit family and friends. And we were driving at night, kind of through downtown Dallas, and on the lane divider markers, they have the little plastic like bumps in the road.
Oh,
there,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Which I just observed. I hadn't seen them before. So I said something to my dad. I'm like, well, why do they have these bumps on the road? He's like, well, they don't have to snow plow here or anything. So they put these as the lane dividers, and they're reflectors. So they reflect yellow one way and red the other way. So if some idiot's going the wrong way on the street, all the lights will flash at him red. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. Aren't all the lights flashing red at us, Dad?
Right.
He's like, oh, when did they make this a one-way? He's spinning the station wagon around in downtown Dallas.
That's
it was perfect.
perfect.
Yeah, it was great.
Well, these are all red.
You read the wrong way, Dad?
So it is exact words were in case some idiot's going the wrong way. Here we are like Griswold flying down the road.
So you'd always get to wherever you were going. At least in our crew, we would kind of get to where you're going because usually that was the major metro area. Everyone's a little frazzled. You're a little exhausted.
Right.
Everyone's a little bit on edge.
Right. And whenever you went to like a family member's house that you hadn't been before, like Kansas City or someplace like that, and the first thing they ask you when you get out of the vehicle is like, how was your drive? And there was that cold silence between your mom and dad because they were like, well, we're getting a divorce when we get home. That's how the drive was, Rod. We're getting a divorce. I hope you're happy.
Yeah. Or how'd you come? How'd you come in?
Right.
Did you ring 35? And then
Right. Did your dads cook? Did you guys?
No. When something was when my mom wasn't available and Dad was in charge, we were going to have breakfast, whether that was for lunch, dinner, or breakfast.
Right.
And our breakfast, we did. I'm not talking about like scrambled eggs.
Yeah.
I'm talking about
Right.
Wheaties.
Right,
we were
right.
doing cold cereal, toast, ice cream.
Right.
Those are pop. My dad can make cereal, toast, ice cream, and popcorn. If my mom goes first, I don't know how he's gonna look after himself.
Sustain
in the kitchen.
himself?
Yeah.
Yep.
My dad's not a bad cook, but the only problem with my dad is it has to be in a cast iron Dutch oven. It has to be in a cast iron frying pan. Yeah, my dad is he's a scout, right?
Yeah.
He still scouts. And so like if
Does
you
he do
get
it in the
him
front
out-
yard over a fire, like an open
well,
fire?
that was it would like mom would be out of town for 3 or 4 days to continue medical education, and my dad's like, all right, boys, this is what I got planned: beef and noodles, and we're gonna have an adventure. But the one time he did, I still remember this. He was gonna make like 3 or 4 meals that were good meals inside the house, and one of them is he wanted to show us how to make buttermilk fried chicken.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
And so it was the best, so you soak the chicken for however long, and then you make it just like regular fried chicken. And it was the first night mom was gone, and got the oil too hot, and I guess left. I mean, we were not in the kitchen, but anyway.
Got distracted.
There was flames involved in this, but there was black smoke and a lot of it. And so it went from my dad making buttermilk fried chicken to like, how are we going to get this kitchen back to the way it was in 3 days? I mean, cabinets need to be painted. A ceiling needed to be painted. There was,
fumigation going on.
Yeah, that like we had like fans for like 4 or 5 days. I still remember like pots and pans banging around like 3 o'clock in the morning because my dad was step one, wipe everything down.
Yeah,
and then
Did you guys pull it off?
no, we didn't eat that meal, and there was no time to eat the other meals. I mean, it was just basically, it was like we redid the kitchen while mom was gone.
But I guess what I'm getting at is when she gets back, did you do a good enough cover-up
No,
job?
it smelled like fresh paint.
Yeah.
No, it was all, it was mostly clean. And, the last meal, I think we did have something, but, it was a deal, man. We had really high ceilings. I think we had like we had lived in an old house. We had like 10-foot or 12-foot ceilings. So there was, ladders involved. And my dad's intentions were great, but it was.
The execution wasn't always there.
Right.
Yeah. Well, my dad was he was a cook. Breakfast for sure. We almost every Sunday, my dad would make scratch biscuits and gravy, being in East Texas.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
he made his gravy with bacon and green onion.
Interesting.
Yeah, it was very unique, but super good. And then he also was huge on the barbecue, of course. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
barbecue chicken and ribs was like standard summer fare that my dad would always cook. And then he always did Christmas Eve dinner. So he would do like
Okay.
standing rib roast and all that. Never touched the Thanksgiving or the Christmas
Okay.
Day, but that was Dad's thing, was Christmas Eve and standing rib roast. So that was
Nice.
so he was a cook, maybe limited in the menu, but executed it well.
John, you do a lot of the cooking in your house, don't you?
I do. Yeah, I've tried to
Yeah.
copy some of that. Yeah,
I was going to
a little
say,
bit.
do you do the biscuits and gravy?
You know
too?
what?
Is you-
I have
you
tried
adopt
to. I've tried to do it with the bacon and green onion, and I just never quite pulled off like Dad. So
Okay.
I've kind of reverted to sausage gravy. The other thing my dad did, I guess he did participate in Thanksgiving because he made a huge thing of stuffing, like so he'd get the bread like days in
Okay.
advance.
Yeah.
Get it stale, sage, fresh sage, eggs.
Love it.
Again, I've tried to copy it a few times, and I have not been able to quite replicate it. So I've told my sister, if you want to try to take it on, go ahead. Otherwise, I'm going to cheat on the stuffing now. So
I think that's one area that dads have definitely kind of their expectations of cooking,
Yeah.
or not expectations, but their
Participation
is
yeah.
much greater than our dads were.
Yeah.
And I think that there's a lot of dads, like I would say probably 95% of all the cooking in our house. I do almost all the shopping in our house. And so, and a lot of the food prep, and like when the kids want something special, they, when it's their birthday, it's always kind of flattering when they choose something that I cook and not like Wig and Pin or something like that.
That's awesome. I would not fall into that stat. Like at our place, I can do a few things. My domain is probably the grill. I'm not like a great, but that's a place I'm comfortable. So like in the summertime,
and that's
I'll
where
grill.
dads' lives were for a long time.
And
to
I'm
grill.
kind of that guy. Like I can do some breakfast things, some simple ones, and I've done a few pastas and stuff. But like Stephanie is very much the king of the queen of the kitchen, and I will maybe try to sous chef a little bit, but I don't do much of the chef. Like that part. I feel like I'm more of a 1950s dad,
Right.
than most contemporary men who cook well.
I'm definitely the first generation that has men's handwriting in the family recipe book. All the rest of it have been my mom, my grandma, everybody. So
yeah.
Yeah, I've always enjoyed cooking and doing the shopping stuff, but I also logged a couple years as a single dad. So, I kind of got
There you
thrown
go.
into the fire there,
Sure.
So I know what it's like to get something on the stove and then go do laundry and all that stuff.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
get
yeah.
kids settled down for homework. And
Yeah.
I had to juggle kind of a few hats there for a little while.
Absolutely.
when we were first married, my wife thought it would be nice to co-cook, which it wasn't bad. The only problem is, like if we'd make beef stroganoff, I'm using sour cream and she's using light sour cream.
Oh, yeah.
And the battle for now, her cholesterol and everything's like 1,000 times better than mine is. But
Well, co-cooking and working the kitchen together is a little bit like riding a tandem bicycle.
Right.
And do you remember there was a show called Dinner and a Movie? It was like on TBS or TNT, Paul Gilmartin.
Right.
It'd be a movie and they'd make a meal. So
Oh, yeah.
way back in the day, we thought this would be kind of a fun Friday night thing. Let's cue up Dinner in the Movie and just follow the recipe and do it.
There
Or,
you go.
yeah.
And then I ended up having a couple of years as a single dad.
Right. So much for that recipe.
I was not very tolerant of light sour cream.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing that I think that dads have gotten better at, changing diapers, right?
Yeah.
So when I was a kid, my parents still use cloth diapers,
Oh yeah.
which,
me
when you
too.
use cloth diapers, you could get into an absolute hazmat scene, right?
Yeah.
And the modern diaper is a lot more controlled and keeping thing in place. And so I think dads are like a lot more, still, I think there's probably some dads that have like a gag reflex, but the kids got to get changed. You guys it was all hands on deck, or did you guys?
Yeah, I wouldn't say that I was the lion's share, but I definitely participated in it, for sure.
Yeah. I remember
Definitely so.
we went down to Florida. I still remember like going into because Walt Disney, they really do accommodate their people. I went into a men's restroom and they had one of those koala changing tables. Like, God damn right. I didn't tell my wife about it, but like day 2 or 3, I like, oh hey, yeah, there's a changing table in there I can take in. With my oldest, there was this virus called rotavirus. and any parent that's listening here, Gen X parent, probably experienced this, at least with one of their kids. But
Brad, if you want to get a bite to eat now, it'd be a good
right,
time.
yeah. Especially if they have cheese grits over there.
Anytime you're about to get in a rotavirus story,
I'll be back.
But this thing, man. So I got up with our kids at night, and I was just kind of a light sleeper, and so I'd always get up with them. And this particular night, my oldest was screaming. He's screaming like he was hurt. And so I wake up, and his room is 2 doors down from ours. And when I wake up, the first thing I realize, other than him screaming, is my first sense is my nose. I smelled something, and something was like, something pooped in my
Nose.
Something pooped in my nose. Something
pooped up my nose.
Right. And maybe my mouth. And so I get up and I go into the room, and he is really unhappy. He's really unhappy. And maybe he's had a night terror, but I could not get past the pungent smell. And I turned on the light, and there was diarrhea all the way up the wall to where the ceiling and the wall met in the corner, and then on the ceiling.
Yeah,
This rotavirus produced explosive diarrhea that had the consistency of mustard seeds and kind of looked like it.
Yeah.
And I can't tell you what the smell is, but I can go to it right in my head right now.
Yeah.
And
So just for our listeners, can we get into a little bit more detail about this? Do you have a photo of it or anything?
Yeah,
that we could post?
are you talking like a brown mustard or like
it
a
is like a
French's?
yellow.
Yellow.
Yeah.
Not a Grey Poupon.
Oh man. And I just thought, oh Jesus, okay. Because the kid's looking at me like, dude, I'm not feeling good at all. And I can see that in his eyes. And so then I just kind of looked at all this on the wall and on the ceiling and on his crib and everything. I was like, oh, okay. So I went back and told my wife, like, hey, you're going to have to get up. She goes, why? I said, because one of us is the first night my kid ever had a shower, because we couldn't bathe him.
Yeah,
we couldn't put
right.
him in a tub like we normally did.
Yeah.
Like we had to rinse him off and then give him a bath.
Yeah.
And I just remember sitting there at 3:30 in the morning with Clorox water, wiping, up by my ceiling, thinking, my dad would have never done this.
Yeah.
He just this would have been a mom job somehow.
Yeah.
When I called, we had this call a nurse line, and I called her up and said, hey, listen, my kid's upset. He has explosive diarrhea. And she goes, does it smell really bad? And I said, yeah, it does. And she goes, yeah, it's rotavirus. And I said, what do I do? And she goes, just have a lot of clean clothes. Keep him hydrated.
Yikes.
I can't remember. I think at that time, all they could have was, like formula. I don't think they wanted him to have anything, but they gave us the green light to give him Pedialyte. It was like kind of the first time he ever had anything that wasn't milk based. But yeah, I just thought my dad never would have.
Right.
Yep.
This would have been a mom job.
Take you outside, hose you down with a garden hose, maybe.
Right.
Never would have gotten that out of the cloth diapers.
No, this would have just been destroyed. This would have been burnt. Ceremonial rotavirus fire. Like something they do.
Honey, I think we're just going to have to move.
Right. Some sort of pyre thing. And they have to get rid of a lot of bodies at once.
Yikes. Never had the explosive. Yeah. I did, and it's Stephanie.
I thought you did on One Day Rat
Great.
Bride.
Well, I had explosive.
I'm sorry. You're talking kids.
Not the kids, yeah.
I had the explosive. I've never experienced it. Never had to clean it up. I would say that Stephanie was definitely lead in charge of, everything, managing the girls. She was a very, very on it mom. But every now and then, I was kind of left in charge. Can't remember if Steph was shopping or gone or was doing something with one of the girls, but I don't remember if it was them or Natalie, to be honest with you, but there was a diaper changing situation, and I got what I called the fatherhood trifecta.
Yeah.
I got the christening. I got pooped on,
right.
peed on, and puked on.
Right.
And the puke was like, I don't know why. I think I had her over my head or something,
right.
and then she threw up, and it's
right.
just like, and I was like, okay.
You're doing everything with her that Steph would have said, don't shake her up like that. She just ate.
Why did you pick? Yeah, something.
I mean, if she's peeing and pooping, putting her over your head was a smart move. I'll tell you that.
I don't know. I can't remember the order it was in either.
Where is this coming from? Get a bird's eye view of this.
Get underneath things. Yeah.
I still remember this. This wasn't my kid, but this is my story. We were at the Iowa State Fair, and there was this dad that had his kid up on his shoulders, and it was a bazillion degrees. It was State Fair hot. And the guy walked past us twice and he smelled like poop. The dad did. Like, he stepped in something, and then like he walked past us and it was just brown down his back. And I thought, oh, that poor dude. I hope he got like a decent Father's Day card this year. Poor son of a bitch. And he had no idea. I'm sure he just thought it was sweat. And like, I'm sure when he met up with his family, hey, you got Dylan's poop down your back.
You don't get that sow barn smell off you at the fair.
No.
Golly, it's still really hanging.
Yeah.
I'm sure it happens to moms, but I just don't ever see that.
Right.
Yeah.
We just make a bigger deal of it.
That's right.
So I brought, for those of you that heard What a Bear Does in the Wood, that episode we talked about Dubuque Star and how it's still brewed. It's brewed by Potosi. So I brought a couple Dubuque Stars in for you guys. Because at one time you guys, I think you said when you did a college visit, that's what you had was Dubuque Stars, right?
I remember a college party at Central College, and someone brought in I thought it was a case of bottles of Dubuque Star. I don't think
probably
I've ever-
was, yeah.
I don't think I've ever seen the red can. It's kind of a cool retro can.
Yeah.
I like it. Yeah.
So what are your thoughts, Brad?
I mean, it's
I haven't quaffed it yet. I'm going to let
give-
it settle
give
in
it-
a minute. While that's happening, one I was telling you about when I visited Loras College, they treated us to the Dubuque Star.
Yeah.
But I was
what it
listening
was.
to satellite radio this weekend. Casey Kasem,
Yeah.
70s Countdown, I think from 1978.
Yeah.
The 32nd song on the countdown was the theme song for Laverne and Shirley.
oh
really?
A couple things. One, I mean, in the day, theme songs to TV shows were like songs that would chart.
Right.
And then, of course, they talked a little bit in the lead into it about Schlitz and the brewery and
Yeah.
the whole thing being filmed.
Oh,
there,
that's
which we
awesome.
talked about that long ago. But yeah, a charted song to lead in Laverne
I
and
remember
There you
like the theme song for Taxi was a charted song for a long time. I mean,
Yeah.
it was just like somebody whistling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other thing I brought, boys, was a gift from our friends Jay and Cassie Strunk. Jay travels quite a bit. Once you get into South Dakota, North Dakota, and all the other Dakotas, they have individual Tang servings. So Jay sent along some packets of Tang so we could have some Tang bombs.
Super
Oh,
useful.
fantastic.
He
That's
knows
great.
we're,
Traveling Tang.
Right.
I like
And it's
that.
prepackaged.
Thank you, Jay. Look at this.
Zero
sugar.
Yeah,
Just
because he
thinking
knows
of
that
our
I'm
waistline.
good at my waistline, yeah. So,
It could be a game changer on Ragbri.
I
Right.
like this. Yeah, just emergency Tang. You can put this in your wallet, I bet.
I know.
So as long as Jay
Right.
keeps traveling, we have a source. As long as he travels west.
I mean, in an emergency, you wouldn't even need to you wouldn't need to necessarily mix. You could rip the top off this.
In case of emergency,
Just
just,
like-
pour the Jaeger right
what
in.
Was the candy that was a powder?
Fun
and
Dip.
you
Right?
tore off. No, it was like gelatin like, and you tore the top, and then you just dumped the sugary candy. Do you guys remember? You know what I'm talking about? We used to buy them. They're like in a little, almost like cardboard wrap. it looked like a swizzle stick.
like a straw.
Yeah.
It was like a straw
Yes,
with a
yes,
thing on the
yes.
top.
Yeah.
So what you could, and you just rip the thing off and you just pour it directly in your mouth. So you do that with this dispenser here, which looks somewhat similar to that. Rip it off. Take your Jaeger, right?
Right.
Maybe a drinking fountain.
Right.
So you could just get a little drinking fountain, a little bit of this, and Jaeger, and like, you don't even need any thing to put it in.
It sounds like it's built for work.
Yeah, I can take this to the office. I'm going to keep one of these in my desk.
There you go.
Do you think that little cardboard straw started out with like some executive like, all right, so what we're going to do is have the kids cut off both ends and they're going to dump the powder into their water and stir it up with a straw and then drink it like Kool-Aid. And then they got like a research group and like a bunch of kids, they cut off the ends of it and just like down the Kool-Aid, sugary Kool-Aid, and like, or they could do that too.
Yeah.
They could just eat the sugar.
I thought you were going another direction with like a Wall Street executive saying, "What if I had one of these and I put some kind of powder in it?"
Right.
That's what I was thinking.
Just
Like,
steal cocaine.
sitting at his desk, snorting a line like, hey, this could be a candy delivery system. I like this.
What if we just put fruit flavors in
Yes.
it?
This
gave it to
cocaine we got
children
from Bogota, we could repackage this with Tang in it.
at swimming pools? Wouldn't that be?
Yeah,
Hey,
I just
very
think-
nice.
Yeah, this is great. This would be good for travel. I was seeing how uncomfortable you were smuggling that Tang into the Czech Republic last year. This would have been nice to have.
Right?
A lot easier to explain anyway when you get pulled aside.
Exactly. This is fantastic.
So Jay and Cassie sent that to us. All right, so let's get back to our talk here. Did any of you guys have dads as coaches?
I did. Yep, my dad
yeah.
coached
What did you coach?
soccer and baseball all the way through. Coached every little league team and every youth soccer team I played on.
That's awesome. Yeah.
I think at one time, like with my dad when he was a kid, all my grandpa had to be was a provider, a protector. Maybe that was it. Mm-hmm. Maybe that was it. Maybe, that was kind of what was expected of a dad.
Yep.
Our dads, if you were a provider and a protector and then you coached, you were a little bit more. Like if you spent time with the kids on Sunday mornings, you were a little bit more. But my dad, when I was in a certain age, where he worked, he couldn't take a lot of time, but he did coach my brother. And my dad was a pretty good coach. I was always impressed with watching my dad coach.
My dad coached too. My dad was a he played baseball, and then when he came to town, he was the head baseball coach for many years in Washington. And then when I got old enough, that coach just didn't go away. That competitor just didn't go away. So where I was going to go. So he was an intense coach with me. He had super high expectations.
Yeah.
And like the whole winter before my first season of Little League, we lived in this big old house with an unfinished basement, not high ceilings down there. And there was like a support pole kind of in the middle of this room, but it was long enough that he could step off. I don't even remember what Little League distance is from the mound to the plate. But anyway, he would step it off and he would go down there and crouch. And he would call balls and strikes. And I'd throw like 3-4 innings a night for months leading up to Little League, so that when I went out and had my debut, I had the arm over the head, high kick,
It looked like you'd been to the rodeo before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so he was really intense and, really expected me to perform well because he poured a lot of time into it, which is fair play. But where I thought you were going to go, he was a good coach. And I remember my teammates, he would lavish praise on them. He would like pick them up when they were down. He would build their confidence. And like, you go out to get infield and he's hitting like perfect bounce right up, and he's like just hitting line drives at my ankles.
Right.
And they're like, what? Get there, stay down on the ball. Right. And like, it was one of those things where we had teams that were good. We had a lot of fun, but for me, it was like,
Brad, if you're going to bleed, go bleed the dugout.
Hockey goalie out there getting peppered.
The coaching never stopped. But I mean, I say that looking back on it, it was good for me. I was going to say maybe I told this story before. I didn't talk back to my dad. That wasn't a thing. You showed respect and you kind of dealt with things, and he would get super intense, especially when it came to athletics. And so he had a bag of pinkered baseballs in this sack in the back of his trunk and the ball gloves. And so anytime we were anywhere and there was a field, so we spent a lot of time in Cedar Rapids, and I remember he'd be like, well, we're going to go have batting practice. It wasn't like, hey Dad, will you take me? We're going to go hit. We're going to go hit for a while.
Right.
All right. So what he would do is he would put me up, instead of at the plate, I'd go all the way back to right in front of the backstop, right? The chain link backstop.
Yeah.
And he would get up closer so he could get more on it and throw harder.
Right.
And he's like, get around on the ball, move the bat earlier. And he's giving me all this feedback.
Yeah.
And we didn't have the L, because he used to pitch to me when I was in high school too. He'd throw me batting practice before batting practice, and he would get in the cage and he had the L. But back then, he didn't have anything to protect him. And he throws me this fastball, and I absolutely tag it right into his groin.
Right.
And he goes down. This is after I've been berated for I don't know.
Right.
And I hit him right in the nuts.
Right.
Yes.
And he's like, okay, pick up the balls. We're done. I'm like,
We're done
yeah,
for the day."
we're done.
Did you say, get the glove down?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Come on.
We definitely,
It was intense coaching.
yeah. John, did you coach any of your kids?
I did. Yeah. So and my dad was not the super intense coach. He was maybe a little ahead of his time in that regard. He wasn't, I don't have recollections of him being extra hard on me or anything like that,
Yeah.
and for the most part, it was just all around good experience and fun teams and stuff like
That's
that.
awesome.
So
Yeah, that's what
so, and of course that motivated me to want to coach. my kids, and I hope we had the same balance with it, right?
Yeah,
it's kind of the life lesson part of it, and the learning to be a competitive group and teamwork and all that stuff. So we tried to strike that same balance. Of course, youth sports has changed immensely. We've talked about that in other episodes, so it's always hard to strike that. But yeah, no, I coached all three of my daughters all the way through travel softball until they got up to high school and got beyond my reach as a coach.
That's awesome that you did that and that you kept it. You know, I think it was helpful for me, right, to have high expectations, to live up to them, and it was just like my dad, I think, would say he just didn't know how to turn off to this day. He's very competitive. That's just like how he's wired, and so
Yeah, Ray, wait till you get to this 4th of July party and see him hovering over that grill. Watch you see Brad burns the burgers. And
I think that's a thing. Like he still plays golf, and he cares about his score, and he wants to compete, and he wants to win, he wants to do well, he wants to get better, and that's a good thing, right? To work hard at something, to hold yourself to a high standard, and all those things. But when it comes to parenting, that's where I found sometimes the feedback that I got was pretty rich, because as intense as he was as a baseball coach, he was an even more intense dad in terms of like discipline and schoolwork and all the things. And I said to myself, I'm gonna be a little bit more of I'm not gonna be that overly enthusiastic coach. I'm not gonna be like overcoaching my kids, or I shouldn't even say overcoaching, but like it's getting super involved in it.
That's super critical, like of excellence. Just like kids play a kid sport, have fun.
Let the coach do the coach things. I'm here to support you. And so I was always fairly hands off. Didn't coach the girls in anything, and maybe should have. Maybe I regret that a little bit. But I didn't want to have that dynamic be too heavy. Right? It was more like, I'm here to support you, cheer you on. Did you play hard? Did you have fun? Were you a good teammate? Those were the things. But then when it came to like discipline around the house, I really had a couple of times when I don't even remember what the situation was, but I was taking a hard line on some discipline situation with one of the girls. He's like, hey, you don't need to, don't get all, and I'm like,
champ, back off a little
and
bit.
I'm like, excuse me? I mean, can I, you know who you're talking to here?
How was your dad with the weather? Or did your dad pay attention to the weather?
Not nearly as much as, not. I mean, he paid attention to it, but
does your dad know how many days out for Ragbri it is all the time?
Oh no.
Hey, this is a serious question. Was your dad handy with tools?
No. If there was something to be done, I think I got my mechanical abilities from my father.
Yeah.
And the ironic part is his dad was a welder.
Yeah.
His dad had an awesome tool set and knew what to do, welded things together.
Right.
Like and my dad, not so much. Yeah. If there was something that needed fixed around the house, I think John.
The only tool your dad had was his son.
Right.
He had to whip him into shape.
Exactly. I was the main tool, the dullest tool in the house.
I still remember one time when I was pretty young. I was probably still in my late 20s, maybe early 30s. My dad was helping me with the project, and he goes, "You know what we need is a sheet metal screw. Do you have a sheet metal screw?" I'm like, boy, I don't know. And he goes, "Do you have a bucket of screws?" And I'm like, no.
Not since college.
Bucket of screws. But anyway, so I realized, like in my early 30s, like I didn't have a bucket of screws like my dad. My dad probably had a bucket of screws when he was in his mid-20s. Like, he could have had a screw for anything.
Did you know what a sheet metal screw looked like? Could you have picked one out?
No, I couldn't. Yeah. Even back then, I was like, so now I do. Because I've got a big bucket of screws. I've got several buckets of screws now. I wasn't going to be caught flat-footed again. Right. Next time my dad asked for a bucket of screws, I was going to have wood screws, metal screws. I was going to have...
it's all in there. Just dig in the bucket.
Right.
I love it. My dad tells me the story about he must have been in college at home for the summer or something, and he was... I don't know if he was working with his dad, but his dad says, "Go get me the crescent wrench." And my dad wasn't sure what he said. And my dad's like, he picks up the wrong wrench.
Right.
No, picks up, and my grandpa's like, "You go to college and you think you're getting all this education. You don't know what a goddamn crescent wrench is." And so I've always known, because my dad told me that lesson. I've always known what a crescent wrench is, and I've got like 3 of them. I only use them to put my bike rack on in the hitch of my car. That's the one thing I use it for. But it's a crescent wrench.
Growing up, my dad only had maybe 7, vacations day, maybe 7. And so he would use holidays to work on the car, like if the brakes needed changed or if the exhaust system needed changed. So we'd celebrate Christmas, we'd have a little bit of Christmas lunch, and then my dad would put on overalls, and we didn't have a garage or anything, and so he'd like lay out in the front in our driveway, like putting on an exhaust system, and Dad, I am so sorry. I know you listened to our show, and I apologize. There were times where I was supposed to hold a flashlight, and I would never hold it in the right space, or he'd be underneath, and I'd lean forward to look and see where he was, and I'd drop a wrench on his head. It was just ding, you'd hear it tumbling down the engine, and I can hit him in the head. Oh God, I felt so bad for my dad, man. I was such a terrible son with things like that. But
aren't there T-shirts that say something like "You can't scare me"? I used to hand
hold
my
a
dad
flashlight for my dad. Yeah. No, my dad, man, he can fix anything, and he really can. He what we need to do is it's your O-rings. It's we've got to replace those, and it's not that hard. We just got to take off the top of this engine, and then once we get that,
exactly.
Do you have an engine hoist? I just got $3 buckets.
No, I got to find my
screws.
Did you have thinking about assembling things? When I moved to college, my roommate thankfully had we did lofts, right? So you had a small room, and you put the loft up so you can put a couch under it or something. Yeah. Luckily, my roommate and his parents, they were he's from Griswold, and they were farm people, and they had the tools and stuff, and I didn't have to do it. And so, but dads who knew what they were doing came in with tool belts and all
cantilevering it. It became like the drawbridge for a castle.
So fast forward to Natalie's freshman year, we had one thing we ordered. We ordered the futon, right? And so we get this futon, and you have to put the thing together.
Restful sleep of the Orient. Futon.
I'm like, okay, it's a school-issued futon. It shouldn't be a big deal. People do this all the time. And I show up.
Jesus Christ. Could you have enough disinfectant for a school-issued futon?
No, it was new. Right. I'm pretty sure it came out of a box. But somehow you could order it through the dorm. All I know is there's this piece of cardboard with shrink wrapped. It's a hex, it's a hex wrench. It's about this long,
right?
And then 75 bolts and washers, different length screws, and a wrench that looks like came in a friggin' Cracker Jack box. And I'm like, okay. And I was just like, you gotta be kidding me. We got her done, but there were some expletives.
I can imagine.
And my buddy, I posted a picture of that, and my buddy Andy says to me, "What a rookie move! You always bring your tool set to Movement Day. Come on, champ."
I tell you what, their meatballs are great, but their furniture just absolutely blows. IKEA. As a dad, I have more time to drink beer than my dad did. I mean, my dad, it seemed like my dad had so many more dad responsibilities because things just weren't as reliable. Cars weren't as reliable. Lawnmowers weren't as reliable. It always seemed like my dad was always doing something to the furnace, all the things that my dad had to do to keep the plates spinning at our house, the operation at our house. I don't have to worry about any of that stuff. So I get a podcast with you dudes every once in a while. I get to sit out in my, patio and drink with my buddy Jay. And so I think that I will say this, when we did go out, my dad would bring a cooler of beer, or we would see things that my dad wouldn't normally have, and to see my dad have an entire cooler of beer was really
big deal.
He just didn't have a cooler of beer and the ice and everything that went along with that when he and his buddies had a couple beers.
We didn't have beer in the house. He was not a drinker, so I never experienced. I didn't have the sneak a beer from Dad's fridge or anything like that. Closest thing to it would be his dad, my grandpa Dunlap, I don't even remember if he actually kept beer at the house, but he had a tradition of like whistle blew, Fred Flintstone down the dinosaur, at the end of the workday. I think he had a tradition to go to his local and kind of hang out,
have a beer or two before he went home,
hang out with his cronies and have a couple beers. So he had a local. And they didn't live too far from it. The Starlight, which I know, John, you know of
very well,
which he was very much a regular there, even into like up to the time that he retired. He would, take his nap in the afternoon, and then he would get up and get to the Starlight when happy hour started, and he'd order himself a draft beer, and he'd sit there and nurse that thing until happy hour was about to close. Then he would order. I think they were 75-cent draws.
Right.
So you get a 75-cent draw, sit there and chew the fat until 10 minutes before they were going to shut it down. He'd order a second one. He'd have two beers and like sit there and tell lies with his buddies,
right?
And so that was the closest thing to like me being exposed to on the Dunlap side, at least. My Uncle Dean, he used to like his CCs and sevens, and then on my mother's side from Ireland, they were more. I don't remember my grandpa Owens. They definitely went out for dinner and so forth, but they were more at home. They had a bar at home. And they were more like they'd pour themselves a stiff drink, like a whiskey or scotch or something in the afternoon, but like before dinner. But I never snuck into that.
John, what was your dad would have a beer or two every once in a while on weekends?
Yeah,
or
he did. He wasn't. We didn't have a huge stash of beer at the house on the regular, but there was always maybe a 6-pack or something that would be on hand.
What'd your dad drink?
He was a Coors guy. I think I mentioned that once before. Kind of from Texas, the banquet,
right?
And then Miller Lite, which in the 70s or whatever was early 80s was so popular. So those are the two I kind of remember my dad drinking. My dad, he did like some of those classic 70s things. My mom and dad both played on a bowling league. So I remember as a little rugrat running around the bowling alley while they were kegling it and killing some beers. And then my dad played on the Joe's Place softball team for a couple of years.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And so I remember getting drugged around like small town Iowa, like on weeknights in the summer, and
how'd you like to have one of those t-shirts?
Oh my, because back then there was like I think it was an A and a B team, right? Like the first year my dad was on the B team, which was the red, white, and blue Joe's Place,
right?
But then like year 2 he was in the black and gold, like
the
bumped
up.
That was like big deal, going to watch these softball games. So and that would be the closest thing I think to dive bar life my dad did would be like Joe's Place on, with the softball crew. Well, I think we had talked about first beers or whatever you had with your dad, and that my dad was pretty strict disciplinarian too, nothing like Brad's dad, but like he was not would not have supported drinking as a kid. But when the first time I had beer was at County Stadium in Milwaukee at a Brewers game, and Dad, when we went to games there, we get a brat. And always let us have a sip of the beer with the brat, So I remember me and my cousin, that was a big deal. We thought we got like a half a beer. We probably each got like 2 little sips to go with our brat, but it was a good communion.
My first beer with my dad, I was actually legal, and I was legal by a ways. I think I'd been 21 for maybe 5 or 6 months, and there's a place called the Sportsman's Lounge in Centerville. And it was a house. It was basically
still going?
No, I don't think so. But I mean, at one time it was somebody's house, and basically what they did was knock down non-supporting walls and put up a pool table, and it became a bar. But we went there for lunch, and we both ordered beers, and we were halfway through our meal, and I was like, I think this is our first beer together. And he goes, yeah, it is. And then he toasted me. So we had a beer together. But I do remember my first beer with my dad. So that was kind of a cool moment, but it was totally accidental.
I might have told John this story. I'm not sure, but like my dad didn't drink, but he's like, look, when you go to college, just keep your nose clean and don't get in trouble. But obviously, I know you're in college and you're going to probably have access to beers and so forth. So when I finally turned 21, he came to Pella, and my buddy Brent Manor, who went on the check ride with us, right? Brent and I had this place. I don't think it's still going. It was called the Depot, right across from Pella Windows, and that was like kind of a towny bar. But there were some college kids that went there. We got to know the locals really well, and we had been there, and we were already very well served. Right. And my dad says, "Hey, I'll take you boys out for pizza." So he takes us to the local Pella Pizza Hut, which was like a treat because Pella didn't have a lot of like we didn't have
much fast food.
I ate on campus, right? I just ate the whatever. So he's taking us to Pizza Hut. We're not going to turn that down. And then he's like, hey, and he thinks he's gonna rile us up. He's like, we're gonna get these. I want to get these boys. I want to buy these boys beer. And so he bought us a pitcher of beer. And we're looking at each other like we're both
already loaded.
Already,
Right.
We've already had a couple pitchers of beer, and it shows up, and we're like, okay, thank you, thanks. And we're not going to turn it down.
Right.
No.
Struggled through it, and it was the first beers my dad bought me was like the last beer I needed.
You feeling all right, Brad?
Yeah.
Just give me to
You
the
guys
gym
going to
floor.
eat any of that pizza? No, it's good.
All right. It is time for the speed round. Boys, this week the game is called Who is Your Daddy? Or if you used apostrophes, it'd be Who's Your Daddy? This week I've taken 10 famous TV dads and have written a brief description that might help you guess who they are. After each dad, both of you will write down the TV dad's name. Partial credit will be given to you for just the TV show. All right. These will all be Gen X television shows. So they're going to be dads from the, I guess, reruns would be the 50s, 60s, and 70s. Yeah.
All right.
Let's
So
go. All right.
you would know them from after school on WGN or TBS. So the first dad, this homespun single dad played a mean guitar and only dated women that didn't mind a little firm pat down and possibly some cop-issued handcuff play at the end of the night. Which dad is this? He's a homespun single dad that played a mean guitar and he had access to cop handcuffs.
Okay. Jack Sue.
Okay.
This 3-time widower found time to raise his 3 sons while still running his sprawling empire. It was almost like he had to keep acquiring more land to bury more wives. What father had a sprawling empire, 3-time widower that had 3 sons? You ready, Brad?
No, I mean I don't know.
These are tough, dude. I'm not going to lie, but they're going to be easy when you hear who they are.
Okay.
This classic TV father always appeared calm, wise, and understanding for his TV family, but it was later insinuated by a comedian that he had absolutely zero patience for this certain furry, semi-aquatic rodent that lived in his house. What father
You know
seemed to
this?
be cool and reserved,
Yes.
but he was always a little bit rough on this semi-aquatic rodent?
I'm whiffing.
I know. That's why I do these, Brad. That's why I prepare for the show, because I love to see you squirm. All right. Here we go. Your next one, Brad.
Yep.
This working class dad ruled his living room kingdom from his favorite chair. He shared his opinions loudly with anybody who would listen and kept his wife emotionally fenced in by calling her dingbat.
Okay.
All right.
I got one.
You picked one up. All right. John, you ready?
Yeah.
This dad acted as the family project manager, organizing a 10-person house with just 2 bathrooms, and he became the first TV dad to appear in the same bed as his TV wife.
I've got a hunch.
Okay.
Ready, John?
Yep.
Now, this TV dad, so if you thought organizing a 9-person house was big, this TV dad was responsible for feeding a household of 11, including his dad, Zebulon. His dad's name was Zebulon. He had 7 kids, man. Don't you imagine at some point they were like, hey, dude, come on. You're not going to have another kid. That's... His dad's name was Zebulon. All right, next one. This rugged father built homes. He farmed, he hunted, and he made many women and some men dreamily imagine what it might be like to have this TV dad do a little rail splitting on their homestead. So what rugged, hunky father who was good with his hands captivated a mostly women audience?
Yeah.
All right. This entrepreneur, a professional complainer, constantly threatened to leave everything behind and go visit his late wife, Elizabeth. So what TV dad was a world-class complainer and always threatened to leave the mortal earth and go live with his late wife, Elizabeth? All right, here we go. This tubby dad had a steady blue-collar job, and he still chose to wear a necktie every day. He and his wife chose one of the most stripper-sounding names for their daughter of all TV daughter history. This tubby dad had a steady blue-collar job, yet he still chose to wear a necktie every day. He and his wife chose one of the most stripper-sounding names for their daughter in all TV daughter history.
Okay.
You locked in, John?
I guess. I don't know.
Oh, man.
That one.
Right. You guys are going to have fun with these.
Okay.
This hardware store owner was the neighborhood dad to everyone. He guided his own kids. He gave wisdom to their friends. He even gave advice to grown men. This guy was the resource of knowledge for half the town. But he had one major flaw. He forgot that he had a third kid. That's right. After season 2, he never talked about his oldest kid again. Even the last show of the last episode, he said, and I quote, "I'm glad our 2 kids are married and happy." Who was this perfect father that forgot about his oldest child? It's hard, isn't it?
What I would hope is that maybe the answers.
Yeah.
If I got some of the dads right, and
Right.
it's not in the right slot,
Right.
I'll get partial credit.
I'll give you partial credit for some of those. All right. So, first question. This homespun single dad played a mean guitar and only dated women that didn't mind a little firm pat down and possibly a little cop-issued handcuff play at the end of the night. John, got a guess?
I went with Andy Griffith.
Brad?
Barney Miller.
Andy Taylor. Yeah, Andy Griffith. Yeah. John, give yourself 1.
Okay.
This 3-time widower found time to raise 3 sons while still running a sprawling empire. It was almost like he kept acquiring more land to bury more wives. Brad?
J.R. Ewing.
Close. Actually really close. John?
Oh, I only had the TV show, My 3 Sons.
No.
No,
It
not
was
that.
Ben Cartwright, Ponderosa.
Okay.
Haas.
Partial for J.R.?
No.
I'll tell you what.
No.
Well, if you get close, I'll give you partial, but
That was, yeah.
this classic TV father always appeared calm, wise, and understanding with his TV family, but it was later insinuated by a comedian that he had absolutely zero patience for a certain furry, semi-aquatic rodent living in his house. John?
Ward, I think you're a little hard on the beaver last night.
Right. Brad.
Oh, that was Bill Cosby.
No, but I'll tell you what, of all of these lists, and I was kind of like, and I'm not, I kind of like scoured it a little bit. I did a little, but Bill Cosby shows up on a couple lists, but the lists were finalized back in like the early 2000s.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so
Good effort.
this father would slip Mickeys into unsuspecting
your Jell-O pudding
stewardess.
pops.
Right.
Hey, Fat Albert. Okay.
This working class dad ruled his living room kingdom from his favorite chair. He shared his opinions loudly with anyone who'd listen and kept his wife emotionally fenced in by calling her dingbat. Brad.
Archie Bunker.
Right.
Same.
Yeah. If you're ever in Washington, D.C. at the Smithsonian, you can see Archie Bunker's
Yes, you
chair.
can, right next to Oscar's garbage can.
Right. All right. This dad was the family project manager, organized 9-person house with just 2 bathrooms, and became the first TV dad to appear in the same bed as his TV wife. John?
Herman Munster.
Good guess, but no.
Mr. Brady.
Mike Brady, that's right.
Oh.
This TV dad was responsible for feeding a household of 11, including his dad, Zebulon. And the guy had 7 kids. John?
I have no idea. The Waltons.
Yeah, that's exactly who it is.
All right.
John Walton. John Walton's dad was Zebulon Walton. Zeb and Esther Walton.
All right.
7 kids, man. Yeesh. You got to stop.
That's a lot.
This rugged...
No guess for you there? Or not?
I had Uncle Jesse for that.
Not a
That's
bad guess.
fantastic.
He was an uncle. He didn't even have any kids of his own. It was those rotten Duke boys that were his nephews. This rugged father built homes, farmed, hunted, and made many a woman and some men dreamily imagine what it might be like to have this TV dad do a little rail splitting on their homestead. Brad?
Tool Time Tim.
No, not bad. Not bad. John?
I went Little House on the Prairie.
Charles Ingalls, you half credit, yeah. This entrepreneur and professional complainer consistently threatened to leave everything behind and go visit his late wife, Elizabeth. John?
Sanford and Sons.
Fred Sanford. Brad?
The professor on Gilligan's Island.
Yeah.
I love it.
Well, I'll tell you what, that dude did have some kids. They just didn't address it in the show. All right, this tubby dad had a steady blue-collar job who chose to wear a necktie every day. He and his wife chose one of the most stripper-sounding names for their daughter in all TV daughter history. Who was this person?
I went with Homer Simpson.
Close, not bad.
Fred Flintstone.
Fred Flintstone wore a blue tie every single day, and he didn't wear pants, and his daughter was named Pebbles. I mean, what were you going to call her? But I'll tell you who had the most.
There was Bam Bam, too, wasn't
Bam Bam is also a very porn name. I'll tell you who had the absolute filthiest name of all of the animated characters was Lucy Van Pelt. I mean, what a absolutely filthy name that is. I want to use Pelt, but I can't just say Pelt. Call her Van Pelt. Yeah, all right, that's a good idea. All right, this hardware store owner was the neighborhood dad everyone came in to advice for. He guided his kids. He gave wisdom to their friends. He even helped grown men. He had one major flaw. He forgot he had an older child. After season 2, he just never talked about that kid again. Even in the last show, he addressed the fact that he was happy that his 2 children were married and happy. Who was this scoundrel that was so knowledgeable, so kind, but did not address his first child that you met in season 1?
Mr. Cunningham.
Mr. Cunningham, yeah. Nice. Yeah, they had so they had an older brother, and then I don't know what happened, but they didn't test well, so they just like wrote him out. And it wasn't Frank Marshall. It was maybe it was Frank Marshall. Penny Marshall was part of that.
Yeah. Her dad was the director, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And so they just, like, after the first season, like, hey, this big brother doesn't fit well. They kind of packed him up to college, and they never talked about him again. Yeah. So
every season, there were 2 classic episodes. One where Fonzie was hiding somewhere and saved Richie from taking a beating.
Yeah.
That was like every season they rolled that out at least once. And then the other one was the annual, when the Cunninghams went to the hardware convention and they'd come home with the big screws on their head.
Right.
That was always a fun episode.
Yeah.
I don't remember those.
You don't remember Mrs. Cunningham with a big screw on her head? And it was great.
I don't.
Right.
Man, that was...
My dad had like 3 really big cans of Mrs. Cunningham's in his garage. All right. Do you dads have it all out of your systems?
Yeah, that we're going to end on that.
Yeah. Exactly. I'm sorry, everybody. We tried hard this week. I mean, we really tried. I mean, we came prepared and everything, but
kinda.
Thank you for joining us this week. Happy Father's Day to all you dads out there. You can find us on our Facebook group and our new Facebook page at Deep Dive Podcast. You can also download and subscribe to our show. Thank you for all your brand new subscribers. We promise we'll get better. We got stuff coming up here. And we want to thank you for joining our show. You can communicate with us at deepdivepod2025 at gmail.com. All right, until next time. Bye-bye.